Today we begin our lesson with the protein structure. Let me explain the term protein for first. Proteins are actually the molecule made up of amino acid. They are the polymer of amino acids. Proteins are extremely important class of macromolecule in living organism. More than 50% of the dry mass of most cell is protein. Protein have many important functions. For example, all enzymes inside your body are proteins. All the antibodies inside your body are proteins. Enzymes are the chemical, they speed up chemical reaction inside the body. Okay, and for example, antibodies are actually the molecules that defend your body against microorganisms. Okay, for example, hemoglobin is an oxygen carrying pigment. This is also a protein. Okay, collagen, for example, is another protein that strengthens many animal tissues. For example, your nail, hair, etc. These are actually proteins called keratin. Okay, actin and myosin, these are actually the proteins present in the muscle fiber. Okay, so for example, some of the protein may be storage product. For example, casein in milk and oval albumin in egg white. These are actually different types of proteins, and these different types of proteins have different functions to do. Now let me explain it. On the basis of structure, protein can be classified into four. Number one, primary structure. Number two, secondary structure. Number three, tertiary structure. And number four, quaternary structure. So let me explain the primary structure first. Primary structure is the sequence of amino acids in a polypeptide or a protein. For example, one amino acid actually link up with another amino acid to form a very long chain. For example, you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4 and amino acid actually link up with one another to form a chain of the molecule. This chain of molecule is said to be primary proteins. Now it begins right here, amino acid number 1, and ends at here, amino acid number 25. This amino acid is said to be start codon because amino acid or this protein structure begins right here, and this is said to be stop codon, or for example, amino acid ends right here. Okay, so let's move to the next level, that is called secondary structures. Secondary structure is the structure of a protein molecule resulting from the irregular coiling or folding or the chain of amino acid. For example, an alpha helix or beta pleated sheets. So there are actually two possible structure of secondary structure. Okay, number one, alpha helix and beta pleated. We are going to study both of these structures in the next slide. Okay, so what happens here over here, a regular coiling and folding. Proteins actually coil around one another to form a spring structure, or for example, they form pleated plates, and those plates actually link up with one another. For example, look at here. You can see that the protein molecule coil around to form an alpha helix structure. This is said to be, this is one of the structure, alpha helix, and this is said to be the beta pleated. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is one plate, and you can see that this is another plate, and both of the plates are actually linked up with one another by hydrogen bonding. Alpha helix and beta pleated, these two types of protein structure are said to be secondary structure of protein or secondary proteins. Okay, now we are going to study tertiary protein. Tertiary protein are the compact structure of protein molecule resulting from the three-dimensional coiling of the already folded chain of amino acids. Okay, in here you can see that. Now this is the secondary structure. You can see alpha helix. Now it return over here and form this. There is a bond between this molecule and this beta molecule, beta pleated and alpha helix. And this type of bonding is said to be, this type of structure is said to be tertiary structure, because the alpha helix and beta pleated, there is actually linkages between them. Okay, alpha helix return right here and form a beta pleated. Now there is a weak bond, and this type of structure is said to be the tertiary proteins. Now let me explain one more term. This is called the quaternary proteins. Okay, this is actually one happens when quaternary structure is the three-dimensional arrangement of two or more polypeptide or of a polypeptide and non-protein components such as heme in the protein molecules. This is actually a larger molecule composed of one or two or more than two polypeptide molecules. The polypeptide may link to another polypeptide or a non-protein component, for example, heme in case of hemoglobin. Okay, in here you can see that this is a very huge molecule because it contains almost four polypeptide, one polypeptide, another polypeptide, another polypeptide, another polypeptide, and you can see right here it is linked with a non-protein structure called iron. Okay, there is also a heme group. Okay, so this type of structure is said to be quaternary structure. Okay, now this is the red blood cell. The red blood cell contains hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is a quaternary protein. Hemoglobin carry oxygen molecule from the lungs to other parts of the body. These are actually oxygen carrying molecule. Now one hemoglobin molecule can carry 8 molecules of oxygen. Okay, now let's begin with the globular or fibrous protein. Globular, a protein whose molecule curl up into a ball shape such as myoglobin or hemoglobin is known as globular protein. Globular protein are actually the larger protein. Hemoglobin is said to be the globular proteins. Protein may be found in cell or other aqueous environments such as blood or tissue fluid and in the phloem of plants. For example, in case of blood, there are two types of protein, plasma protein and, for example, the hemoglobin. Okay, tissues fluid also contain proteins in them. Phloem on the plant also contain protein in them. Globular protein usually curl up so that their non-polar hydrophobic R groups are joined into the center of the molecule, away from the water surrounding. Okay. Now you might remember the structure of amino acid. The structure of amino acid contain R group. Why amino acid are different from one another, or why there are 20 different types of amino acid? Just because they have different R group. This R group is separate one amino acid from another amino acid. Water molecules are excluded from the center of the folded protein molecules. Okay, the polar hydrophilic R group remain in the outside of the molecule. Okay, now hemoglobin is an example of globular protein. Okay, what we studied till now so far was actually an introduction to the globular protein. Now a hemoglobin is an example of globular protein. Hemoglobin is the oxygen carrying pigment found in the red blood cell and is globular protein. We have seen that it is made up of 4 polypeptide chain. One polypeptide is said to be a single protein. So there are actually 4 polypeptide chain. These polypeptide chain link up in order to form a quaternary structure and is said to be the hemoglobin because it contains also a non-protein structure called heme. Each chain is itself a protein known as globin. Globin are of many types. Okay, 2 types of globin, alpha globin and beta globin makes hemoglobin. Okay, now 2 of the hemoglobin chain called alpha chain are made from alpha globin, and the other 2 chains called beta chains are made up of beta globin. Now collagen, this is the very important structure in the bodies of humans, specifically in the humans. For example, collagen, you might have seen alveoli. Alveoli are actually protected by fibrous protein. For example, when we breathe in, our alveoli fill up with the air. Okay, now collagen actually presses it again to pump the air out of the lungs once again. Some of the people, they usually smoke cigarette. They have completely destroyed, or they have completely destroyed, I would like to say, their collagen molecules. Now What happens when we breathe in? We breathe in normally, but it is very difficult for the alveoli, for the collagen molecule to pump it back, because the collagen molecule are broken by excessive smoking. Okay, therefore this is also called fibrous protein because it looks like a fiber. Okay, collagen is the most common protein found in animal, making up to 25% of the total protein in mammals. Now you might have seen some of the people, they actually expose themselves to the sunlight. What happens? The collagen molecule in the skin usually breaks and wrinkles appear on the skin. So for example, the tight or toned skin is actually because of the collagen. What happens if these collagens are broken? Wrinkles appear on the skin. It's an insoluble fibrous protein found in the skin, tendons, cartilage, bones, and wall of the blood vessels. Okay, specifically the arteries. For example, what happens if you place your finger upon an artery? You can feel the surge of blood. This surge of blood is just because of the collagen, because collagen are actually elastic. Okay, it can stretch and return back to its original place. Okay, it's an important structural protein not only in the humans but also in other animals. A collagen molecule consists of 3 polypeptide chains, each in the shape of helix, not alpha helix. The 3-dimensional or the 3 helical peptides are wound around each other, forming a 3D rope or a triple helix. The 3 strands are held together by hydrogen and covalent bonds. Okay. Now look at here the structure. This is one fiber. You can see that one polypeptide, another polypeptide, and still we have got another polypeptide. Now these 3 polypeptides curl up around one another, and these are actually linked up with one another by a covalent bond, or for example by a weak hydrogen bonding to form a rope-like structure. This rope-like structure is said to be a fibrous protein. Okay. This is said to be the collagen. This actually makes the skin tighten, or for example this is also present in the alveoli. Okay, for example when it helps to breathe the air out of the lungs.